Hi, I was at a cider festival last weekend, and it was truly one of the most impressive cider festivals I've ever been to. It was a top notch one in a metro area. I took away some lessons that I think would apply to any festival that you might be at if you're pouring, and that would benefit you. So here I am. I'm going to share what my opinions are. And I don't think that they're bad opinions. I just think they're mine. And you may or may not want to do them. Here are my opinions. One, train your servers. This was really huge. I worked both sides of a counter. I was pouring and I was going out and visiting people. What was really, really disappointing was the number of servers who really didn't even know what was on the label of the can. They didn't know about the product. They weren't representing the product very well. And that puts you at a disservice. So I strongly recommend you make sure that your servers know some basics about your product to do right by you. Number one, range of sweetness. This has got to be the most often asked question. Which one's sweet, which one isn't? They should know the range of sweetness. Now, you know, and I know that sweetness is a matter of perception. However, residual sugar is a really good benchmark. If you have nothing else to work on, and you may not be on the can, but let them know what they're pouring, which one is sweeter than the other, so that when someone says, I want something dry, they don't drop your candy cider on there that is fun and great, but totally inappropriate for somebody asking for a dry cider. So definitely, they need to be prepared to know what sequence sweetness your range is at, okay? What's best? Don't you love that question? Which one is best? I'm going to leave it to you to talk to your servers about how they would answer that question. That's totally up to you. I typically, when I'm pouring for friends and I know their products. So not only am I able to say this one's my favorite, but I can say why. I can say how it finishes. I can say that it's an evening sipper, that it's not too high in alcohol, that it pairs well with something. I can tell them why it's best for me. And I can say that really quickly. And I can say, ask them, when someone says, what's best? Well, do you want to have this with a meal or are you just thirsty? You know, that's a good place to start to try and show an interest in what the customer wants so the customer walks away impressed with your product. Where can I buy this? Oh my God, this is huge. So many vendors don't know. Now, if you're in a place like Canada where distribution is pretty controlled by the LCBO, that's part of it. But if you can say we're on tap at the following places, I mean, that is really huge. And that shouldn't be committed to memory. That should be a takeaway. Please try our ciders at the following venues, okay? Be it a restaurant, be it a pub, whatnot. Give them that. If you have a tasting room, put your website on there. Make sure directions to your website are there so that they can get to you where you've got the biggest margin. But customers go so they can buy something. Make sure you let them know. Do you ship? Now that used to be a death question a couple years ago. Not so much anymore. If you have a shipping agent or you ship directly, consumer directly, they should be able to answer that question. That's huge, okay? They want to spend more money on you. They want to enjoy your product and share it with their friends. They should be able to when they leave the festival. Help them out. Where's the fruit from? Okay, that is a big deal. People want to buy local regional products. If all of your product is, say, from Missouri Proud, that's great. Maybe you have a collab. Maybe you're like some folks and you're sitting right smack dab on the border between another state and you have a partnership with a grower on the other state. Be proud of your partners. Tell them about your partnership. So be prepared to say where the fruit comes from. Are you an estate cidery? You grow everything. That's something to be proud of. Okay, so speak to where did the fruit come from? All right. Do you use concentrate? Do you use corn syrup? Do you just, do you back sweeten with sugar? Be prepared to give honest answers. Okay? You're doing it because you're trying to improve the quality and the pleasure of the product, I hope. So be prepared to tell them that. Don't forget, an ice cider is a concentrate. So you can honestly say, we freeze concentrate our juice to back sweeten it. So that's a form of concentration, but don't just say, yes, we use concentrate. Tell them the rest of the story. It's our fruit, it's our juice, and we freeze concentrate it. This is not imported concentrate from someplace else. Be prepared to tell your story. Your story is interesting. Do a proper pour. How many times have I gone in? I got to drive when I leave, okay? So I'm going to say one finger. I mean it, one finger in that sample glass. And I get this. Train your pours, your servers, to be sensitive that the customer says a single finger, a proper, or maybe a 2-ounce pour, depending on where you are, but a proper pour. Teach them how to do it, or at least how to acknowledge it. And if the customer says, okay, that's enough, and they sample it, and they don't want more, and they hand the glass back, that means, please dump it for me. You put too much in there. They need to be prepared with the dump barrel right then and there. Okay, don't make the customer walk around with something they don't want. Okay, because now there's no room to try anything else. We know there's legalities involved, whether it's smart serve or whatever. But the big deal here is when they want a short pour, there's a reason for it. Respect that. Give them a short pour. Labels. Labels are hard to read in the store. Don't make them hard to read at the pouring. Enlarge them. Put them on a card. Put them on something big where the customer can actually see the label you spent so much money designing and getting approved. And if you don't like the words that are on the label, well, that's a hint. A lot of times the language on labels is delightfully vague, or it's for a very thin target audience. So now it's probably when you start looking at those labels bigger, you might reconsider the marketing purpose of that label and secondary audiences of that label. So right up front, train your servers. And the reason I say that is the server should have that enlarged label available to them so they can look at it quickly without having to rummage for a can out of the ice or a bottle or the like, especially if you're tapping. If you're tapping and this is an on-tap only product, they still need to have a description of the product. Get to know the customer. Some people were really good at this. Oh, I got a compliment on my sunglasses or something like that. But I was like, I like this guy. This is good. So immediately there's a rapport there. So it takes just a moment to engage the customer, to draw them in. So it's not just a clinical tasting. It's becoming a part of a memorable event. And they remember your product. Okay. They'll remember that they enjoyed your product because suddenly they were in the company of somebody who enjoyed their company. That's kind of a big deal. That's what festivities and festivals are about. If there's a contest or a door prize, make sure they sign up. Okay? Make sure you have the materials ready and waiting for them so they can sign up. Not only does it show that you care, but if they win, they're going to remember you. Okay? So that's like a big deal. And engage as best you can, but keep the line moving. I think we've all been to festivals where you can't get to the table. Think of polite ways to move people on if they're not engaging you anymore, because they're getting between you and other people who are trying to enjoy the event. They're trying to get past and they want to enjoy the event. So think of ways to draw people from the back, which is a clear signal to the person loitering in the front, that they need to move along, okay? And you can be fun and friendly about it. But really, that's a kind of a pet peeve of mine. Big one, kind of the last one for the most. First time I've ever been at a festival to do this. This producer was doing it. I got to do it behind the counter, and it made me feel so good about being related with that producer. Dump and rinse the glass for the person. They come up and there's something in the glass. Do you mind if I dump and clean your glass for you? Everyone's going to say yes. I mean, if you get someone who says, no, I want you to mix them up, it might be time to cut them off. But anyway, have a dump bucket, dump it. We were using spray bottles, just regular like cleaning spray bottles you would get at a big box store with water in them. Uses very little water. It's very fast. You can actually do a little flare with this, but you can make a thing that you're cleaning their glass and all they're tasting is your product. Doesn't matter if they've been tasting mud from everybody else because they keep pouring it on top of somebody else's. Your product is going to stand out because all they're tasting is your product. And that makes a big deal. And we had more people come back thanking us for doing that just because they said, nobody else is doing that. And they truly appreciated it. Too often, the dump buckets are behind the tables. They're not, you know your venues, right? They're not where people can get to them. And then there's no way to rinse them there. So clean the glass for them. Show that you care. Let them see what you're doing. Okay? This is kind of a big deal. And it really presents your product so much better. These are my tips. These are short and easy. These aren't about how to run a festival. This is how to behave at a festival. And if you're at a festival and there are no dump buckets and nobody's rinsing, let the festival organizer know there's room for improvement. How's that? Room for improvement. So I hope you benefit from this. Take care. Have a great day. Cheers.